Hey everybody, this one is going to be a short one. It's going to be a little tips and tricks videos on how to write unit tests for your Unity ECS systems. So let's jump right into it. First of all, we need this test runner video. Alternatively, if you have Rider, you can use this. Uh, but let's just use this one here. To get this window, you go to Window, then you go General and Test Runner. And then in your editor, you're probably not going to see anything because we now have to actually do a little bit of setup in order to be able to actually write our unit tests and see all those tests here in for entities. So let's go to our code. As you can see, I have my manifest JSON file open, which is in the, let's have a quick look, located in your project. Just search for manifest JSON. It's basically the file where all your packages are added. And as you can see, we of course have entities somewhere around here. There you go, entities graphics, which will in turn install entities. I'm currently using version 1.2.3, so it's an updated version in the current preview of Unity 6. Now, in order for this whole thing to work, we need to add this little testables segment down here. So you just paste this in, and then you have this com.unity entities. And what this allows us to do is first of all, it's going to allow us to run the tests for entities themselves, which is not going to be super exciting for us. But secondly, it allows us to use some stuff from the entities package itself related to tests. So next up, we are going to need to create a test assembly file. Now, again, you can do this in Rider, or you can do this basically in Unity itself. Let's say we have this folder selected, then we can go and say right click, create, and then there should be something like testing, and then test assembly folder, which will create an empty folder with a test assembly file in it. Alternatively, if you have the test runner open and it can't find any test assemblies, it will offer you a button for that. The test assembly file is going to look a little bit like this. You can define a name and the root namespace, which is whatever you want. However, you need to add some stuff here in order to use all the entity stuff. Depending on what you're actually using, you might need to add even more things, but I've found out for the very basic stuff to work, we need Unity collections, Unity entities, and Unity entities.test. So let's jump into our little test, that's what I call them. It's a very simple test system, which basically, let's get rid of that, which basically does only one thing. It just increments a value on a component. So we have our little test component here, an int value, and then we have an on update, which basically just increments the value. Now, of course, you would probably add like a required for update. This is just the very most basic example I could come up with. So in order to write our test, we need to define a class, which of course has to live inside our test folder. And this is the first specialty about it. It's going to be using this ECS tests fixture. If you look into this class real quick, it's a very simple thing. It has an entity manager. It has a reference to the world and some other stuff. But for our little basic test, all we are actually going to use is the entity manager and the world itself. So in order to write a test, we just need a method that is going to be accessible. I think it has to be public, not sure about that. Doesn't need to return anything, and it needs this test attribute. Now, what our test does basically is you just simulate what would happen when you write a system, right? So for example, we create an entity and then we add our component to that. And then, and this is the interesting part, we create the system that we want to test. In our case, it's our test system over here. And then we run system.update. So this create system returns a system handle. And now what this does, is basically it simulates one frame, right? So it will in turn call on update, and then we can just write a little expectation here. So in this case, we want to check if the value inside the test component is now actually 2. So if we now run this, and let's do this in the test runner itself, because that's probably what you're going to be using. To run this, we can just go, after scripts have compiled, of course, we can just go over here. We're going to open this test DLL, which is basically the test assembly that we created, and then we have our namespace. This is the class of the name of a fixture, and then we have the test itself. Now we can just run anything we want. We could run all, or we could just say, okay, we want to run everything inside the test DLL, and we click the run selected button. And if the test is successful, it's going to be a green check mark. And this way we now know that actually, yeah, the incrementing by 1 works, because we start with 1 and we expect 2, and in between something has happened. Win-win. That's going to be all for today. I hope you found this little tip useful. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, comment, all the stuff. I see you in the next one. Bye bye.